Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotartha Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotartha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamadiriyed. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto... What happened? Did I make a mistake? Unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance and classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 15th day of December 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 9th canto entitled Liberation, Chapter 6, The Downfall of Salbhari Muni. Text number 51. Okay. me a second. Sangam Chajeta Mituna Vratinam Mumuksuhu Sarvatmana Na Visvajed Bahir Indriyani Ekash Charan Rahasi Chittam Ananta Ishe Yunjita Tanvatishu Sarushu Chet Pasangaha Sangam Chajet Mituna Bhatinam. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right, let's try that again. All right, looks like it's an irregularity. Sangyam Chajet Mitada Bhatinam Mukshuhu. No, it's not Vatinam. It's Vatinam. Let's try one more time. Sangam Chajeti Mitanavati Nama Mukshuhu. Okay. Sarvatmanana Visvajed Bahadindriyani. Ekascharan Mahasi Chittamananta Ishe. Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhushu Chet Pasangaha. Sangam Chajeta Mitanavati Nama Mukshu. Sarvatmanana Visvajed Bahadindriyani. All right, not too fast. Ekascharan Mahasi Chittamananta Ishe. Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhushu Chet Pasangaha. Sangam Chajeta Mitanavati Nama Mukshu. Sarvatmanana Visvajed Bahadindriyani. Ekascharan Mahasi Chittamananta Ishe. Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhushu Chet Pasangaha. Sangam Chajeta Mitanavati Nama Mukshu. Sarvatmanana Visvajed Bahadindriyani. Charan Mahasi Chittamananta Ishe. Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhushu Chet Pasangaha. Sangam Chajeta Mitanavati Nama Mukshu. Sarvatmanana Visvajed Bahadindriyani. Charan Mahasi Chittamananta Ishe. Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhushu Chet Pasangaha. Any of our bhaktas want to try? No? Too hard. It's hard. Okay, go ahead. It's hard. The first line, too hard. You can chant, all right. There's for concession, instead of Vatinam, you say Vatinam. Go ahead, just flow, it'll flow. You want to try it? Anyone online?
Sangam Chajeta Mitunavratti Nama Mukshu.
Sangam Chajeta Mitunavratti Nama Mukshu.
Sarvatmana Visvajed Bahadindriyani.
Sarvatmana Visvajed Bahadindriyani.
Ekascharan Rahasi Chittamananta Ishe.
Ekascharan Mahasi Chittamananta Ishe.
Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhu Chet Prasangaha.
Yunjita Tanvatishu Sadhu Chet Prasangaha. Okay. Sangam, association. Chajeta, must give up. Mitana Vatinam, of a person engaged in sexual affairs, legal or illegal. Mamukshuhu, persons who desire liberation. Sarva Atmana, in all respects. Na, do not. Visrajate, employ. Bahi Indriyani, external senses. Ekaha, alone. Charan, moving. Rahasi, in a secluded place. Chittam, the heart. Anante Ishe, fixed at the lotus feet of the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yunjita, one can engage himself. Tat Vatishu, with persons of the same category, desiring liberation from material bondage. Sadhushu, such saintly persons. Chait, if. Prasangaha, one wants association. Translation. A person desiring liberation from material bondage must give up the association of persons interested in sex life and should not employ his senses externally in seeing, hearing, talking, walking, and so on. One should always stay in a secluded place, completely fixing his mind at the lotus feet of the unlimited personality of Godhead. And if one wants any association at all, he should associate with persons similarly engaged. Purport. Now get the pronunciation right. Saubhari Muni, giving conclusions derived from his practical experience, instructs us that persons interested in crossing to the other side of the material ocean must give up the association of persons interested in sex life and accumulating money. This is also advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nishkinchanasya bhagavad bhajanon makasya param padam jigamaso bhavasagarasya sandarshanan vishahinam atayoshitanksha ha handa handa vishabhakshanato bisaruhu. Chaitanya Chandrodaya, Nataka 827. Alas, for a person seriously desiring to cross the material ocean and engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, seeing a materialist engaged in sense gratification and seeing a woman who is similarly interested is more abominable than drinking poison willingly. Close quote. One who desires complete freedom from material bondage can engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He must not associate with vishayi, materialistic persons or those interested in sex life. Every materialist is interested in sex life. Thus, in plain language, it is advised that an exalted saintly person avoid the association of those who are materially inclined. Srila Narottam Das Thakur also recommends that one engage in the service of the acharyas, and if one wants to live in association, he must live in the association of devotees. Tandara Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. The Krishna consciousness movement is creating many centers just to create devotees, so that by associating with the members of such a center, people will automatically become uninterested in material affairs. Although this is an ambitious proposal, this association is proving effective by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By gradually associating with the members of the Krishna consciousness movement, simply by taking prasadam and taking part in chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, ordinary persons are being considerably elevated. Saubhari Muni regrets that he had bad association even in the deepest part of the water. Because of the bad association of the sexually engaged fish, he fell down. A secluded place is also not secure unless there is good association. Om Jnana Timbarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, have you noticed a parallel between Durvasa Ambarish and Saubhari Muni and the fish? We have Durvasa Muni was very envious of Ambarish. He was a great yogi, just like Saubhari Muni. And but his, he was not attracted to the devotional characteristics of Ambarish. He felt very envious that he was being honored. Well, me, a great Brahmin, I'm not getting the honor. And so he did something that completely beyond the pale, and he decided to burn him alive, instead of honoring him. So he engineered that whole thing with the Ekadashi, and that Ambarish would so-called make an offense by eating before his guests, drinking a little water. So you know the whole story. And instead, the Kritya was burned. Ambarish was not moved in the slightest, just like Prahlad, in spite of all that threat. And the chakra, which had been put at his disposal, actually, by Krishna. He had given him access to the chakra. He didn't invoke the chakra, but the chakra went after that Kritya, and then it went after Durvasa, and Durvasa, in panic, went all over the universe. You know the story. But in the end, he comes back at the instruction of Vishnu, and offers dandavats to Ambarish, and asks him to please withdraw the chakra, and of course he did. He told the chakra to lay off. And Durvasa was actually purified by that. He, if you recall, he was chanting the glories of Ambarish, and he really became purified. So in a similar way, you have this great yogi, Saubhari Muni, who was living in Vrindavan, bathing in the Yamuna for years on end, right? Living there. And yet, he wasn't taking advantage of it. He was very proud of his yogic powers. And he had made great friends with the fish. And therefore he had committed a great offense against Garuda, who had come to eat his natural fare, the fish. And Durvasa had prevented him from doing that, cursed him or whatever. And so he committed that great offense. And because of that offense, he became agitated by seeing the fish copulating, which is pretty pathetic for any, what to speak of an ordinary human being, but a great yogi. It just showed that he had these powers, but he didn't have the real power of a Vaishnava, which was vairagya, which comes from cultivating of Krishna consciousness. And we saw the great power of Prahlad Maharaj. He wasn't trying to defend himself at all. He wasn't running, he wasn't praying, he was simply, he was simply chanting Hare Krishna, chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He was completely remembering the Lord, whatever you want, that's okay. And so he was completely protected. So, there's a verse that came to mind, thinking of this whole pastime of Saubhari Muni, and I call it the Anthem of Saubhari, the Song of Saubhari. It is a verse that you may have heard before. I put it into poetry quite a while ago. And I remember when I first read it, this is when I was reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita for the first time. And this was a verse that Prabhupada would often quote, actually, if you study the Veda base. And it's the lamentation of someone who's been obeying the demands of the senses for so long, but now has gotten the spiritual strength to reject them. Now you know which verse it is. You want to chant along? No, don't make it. So here's the verse. Now, Lord Chaitanya teaches this verse to Sanatana Goswami at the beginning of his second phase. There's three phases of his teachings. The first is Sambandha Gyan. This is true of Lord Chaitanya says there's nothing in the Vedas but these three: Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan, and Prayojana Gyan. So it's very important to understand these. So Sambandha Gyan is essential. It means understanding who we are as spirit souls. Who is God? What is this world? How it came about? And what is our relationship to the elements of this world? This is like relationship understanding. So the basic point is Krishna is the creator of everything. We're part and parcel with spirit souls, and we've been illusioned since time immemorial forgetting God, which we wanted to do so we could try to enjoy this material world. But instead we've been suffering. Little enjoyment, and then so much suffering, birth, old age, disease, and death, and the threefold miseries. So that's the situation we're in. So how to get out of it? Then abhideya, the practice to lead you to prayojana. Now prayojana is love of God, pure love of God. It's not mukti, it's not anything material, but it's pure love for Krishna, which includes mukti. So he's beginning his teachings, and he chants this verse. Now I remember coming across a passage in a book of transcriptions of lectures that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave. There's no recording at that time. And imagine, there's no microphones. And yet he's lecturing to thousands. I don't know how, but there it is. And so this transcription, he attributed this verse to Madhavendra Puri. Otherwise, there's we don't know where it came from. So let's assume he wrote it. So here's the verse, Prabhupada would often recite it. Kama dinang katina katita palita durnideshas tesham jata mayana karuna nattapano pashantihi utsrijaitan hadayadupate sampratam labdha buddhis tvamayata kashadana mabayam mam niyung swatmadasye. And now this imagine Sabri Muni singing this song, this prayer, after this whole experience here, after his marriage, to 50 wives, and then having 100 sons with it. Maybe he can. That's pretty amazing. They're all sons. So he has 5,000 sons, and after all of that, now he's renouncing it. Right? These verses are about that. So what he says is in how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy. Yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. You can see Sobri singing that. Anyway, it's the same mood here. And he's describing in the verse we had today, right, with the irregularity at the first line. I'm going to look that up and see if it really is Vratinam or Vratinam, because it definitely breaks up the meter. But in any case, so what is he doing now? He's saying, he's revealing his realizations from this whole experience. A person desiring liberation from material bondage must give up the association of persons interested in sex life and should not employ his senses externally in seeing, hearing, talking, walking, and so on. So, this is what he should do, he had failed to do. One should always stay in a secluded place, completely fixing his mind at the lotus feet of the unlimited personality of Godhead, and if one wants any association at all, he should associate with persons similarly engaged. So, then Prabhupada naturally describes, well, this is what we're trying to do in the Krishna consciousness movement. He works so hard to create these, we don't call them mats, but this is what the Gaudiya mat mean, a temple with an ashram, you see. In so many temples, there's no ashram. You have to visit, it's only for visitors. But when you have an ashram, that means it's more serious, and then people can actually cultivate pure devotion there, and live full time. So that's what Prabhupada endeavored so hard to create, and he did. He was able to do it all over the world. There's available these islands of sanity, of purity, that one can come, get good association. Now, of course, association, Sangha means with others who are practicing, because that's how you develop your desires. So that's Sangang Sanjayate Kama. There's a famous line in the second line of a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. Dhyayado vishayan pungsa, sangat teshu bhajayate, sangat sanjayate kama. Right? This describes Sabri Muni. So by meditating on the object of the senses, one develops an attachment for them. And from that attachment, then by continuing to do that, develops into kama, an uncontrollable desire. Let's think of it that way. And it's basically sex life, but it's more than that. Something like kama. And then when you're frustrated in that, kama, krodha, anger comes. And from anger, you lose your memory. Kama, krodha, krodha bhavati sammoha. Sammoha, you become completely bewildered. and you'll do something you wouldn't ordinarily do. So many crimes are committed in that fury where you're not even able to access your ordinary intelligence. Prabhupada tells the story of a case in Calcutta when he lived there, where two brothers were fighting. Maybe one took his girlfriend or something, but it was serious fighting, and one brother killed the other brother. Happens. I won't tell the story how I'm afraid my brother almost killed me, but anyway, I wasn't killed, obviously, so I'll just leave it at that. It was heavy duty. Anyway, so he was killed, and then there's a trial, and he's sentenced to be hanged. And the father appealed to the judge, to the court. Oh, I've already lost one son. Now you're going to kill I'll lose the other son. So they said, okay, so he got life imprisonment, But the point was the point is that by allowing yourself to become furious and angry, you'll do something out of character that you may regret the rest of your life. You see, it's controlled by the mode of ignorance. It's a very dangerous situation. So that association with others forms your character, right? And that's why parents are always, good parents are always concerned. Who is my 12-year-old boy and his 11-year-old sister hanging out with now? They're going to these parties. What's happening at the parties? And the real problem is not just where do you get sangha? On the phone, right? There's various places now where they're prohibiting children from getting cell phones at a certain age, because it can be so damaging. That's sangha, and it can be so powerful. The music and the talking and the images and everything, more than even ordinary association with your friends. But the result of that is, and we see an example of it here, Saubhri Muni, having committed that offense against Garuda, had no access or ability to actually call on Krishna to save me from this desire. He was just affected by seeing that copulation of a fish. It was actually kind of pathetic. Here's this great yogi, and he couldn't control him getting the fish. So he comes out, they're going to get married, and it wasn't describing here, but I think in other places I've seen it described. He was living underwater for years, a long time. So everyone knows, if you stay in the bath too long, you get wrinkly. So he was old, wrinkled up, and he was old. So he goes to, I forget the name of the father. He had 50 daughters. Please give me one of your daughters, for marriage. So the father was in a pickle. Here's this powerful yogi, wanting one of the daughters. So he had a very nice strategy. He thought that any of my daughters can pick you. But Saubhri Muni, I get it. None of them's going to pick me because I'm old and wrinkly. And who wants to marry me? So by his mystic power, he turned himself into a young man. Very attractive. So they all wanted to marry him. So now he's got 50 wives. Kamadinam, he's in control. So he goes for it. And each one, 100 sons. That must have been mystical power too. Not one daughter amongst the 5,000 children. So now he's got 50 wives and 5,000 children. And then he starts chanting these verses of regret. He realizes that he made a big mistake. So this what's come out of it here is he's giving good advice. A person desiring liberation of material bondage must give up the association of personal interest in sex life, because that association will rub off, and you'll be desiring that, and you'll be tightly bound in birth and death, old age, disease. So then, he gives conclusions derived from his practical experience. And what he's done, I think he's already right in the forest when he's saying this. I think he's taking Vanaprastha, right? But in Vanaprastha, the wives go with you. I think that's going to come up. I think I read ahead. So now he's got his. What about those thousands of children? Who's going to take care of them? I don't know if it's even in here. What happens with them? But you see, it's a tremendous entanglement when you do that. Then you're in a situation where you have a tremendous amount of responsibility, and to neglect that, it's a great sin. You're causing harm, And how can you have a peaceful mind and engage in bhakti or any kind of yoga with that? So it's a great entanglement. And so he's giving all of this, but he's giving this good advice. And he, as we discussed, at length, the whole thing started with a big offense against Garuda. That really kind of sealed his fate. He's going to go through a lot, because that's especially a great devotee like Garuda, who's a personal associate of Vishnu, who's his servant. So there's a parallel here with these two pastimes, Durvasa and Ambarish, and this Saubhari and his relationship with Garuda, is that there was a big offense committed, and then there was ultimately, because of the wisdom of those who are undergoing it, and earlier that they were able to come out of it and actually take up devotional service seriously. So our lesson here is that we should take advantage of the association of devotees, which is invaluable, and don't do anything to endanger that by committing offense or getting slack in our sadhana. That's another thing. That how can we maintain our desire to continue in the path of devotional service, which means continuing in the path of association and practice and austerity and all these things? Only by strict sadhana. Because you see, there's two things going on. One is our habit, long births after birth, and in this life also, of trying to enjoy the senses and being frustrated and so forth. And by good fortune, we by association with devotees, basically, most importantly with Prabhupada through his books, practically, has anyone joined without reading a book? I don't think so. I remember when I read the Krishna book, or I was reading the Krishna book, but I wasn't really ready for the Krishna book, because I was into meditation and all the philosophy and everything, and this is all these pastimes and stuff. But then when I read the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, that really got me. That really attracted me. I want to investigate this more, and I started visiting the temple very regularly. It's just my own nature. But Prabhupada's books are so varied, what's so amazing about Prabhupada's books is that there's no doubt there. I read so much philosophy books, and it was maybe this, maybe that, and here's the speculation, and each had philosophers all differed, But when you come, there's a verse about that. How's it go? Tarko pratishta shutiho vibhinna nasa vishir yasimatam nabinnam dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gata sapanda. This is from the Mahabharata. So tarka apratishta, meaning by arguing, you'll never come to the conclusion, just by arguing back and forth. Tarka is more materialistic. And even if you just, without guidance, let me check out the Shastra. I remember my path of coming to Krishna consciousness. I heard about the Vedas and the Upanishads and everything, and I was in the library. Where was it? Was it in, I think, a university somewhere in the New York area? And I saw there was this whole books of the Upanishads. There were 6 or 8 green books, thick books of the Upanishads, And I said, should I take one of these out, And I looked at it, and it's hard to read. I ended up not doing that, but I learned later that it probably wouldn't have helped me, because what this says that Shrutis, the Shastra, they seem to differ in various things. They have different emphases and so many different things, So I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, at my age, at that time in the 60s, a lot of people were reading a lot of books. Of course, they weren't always Shrutis, but they were autobiography of yogi. I don't know anyone who didn't read that, even today. And that got a lot of people interested in yoga. But then there was the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is the whole other thing. That was the Buddhist side, and everything. Well, what's that? So the point is, just by reading on your own, it's important, first step, but it really culminates if you want to get inspired to actually come and take association. Now, nowadays, America, just think of the United States, it's a big country. And there's quite a few temples around the country. But you can be 200, 300 miles from a temple easy if you're out living in, a remote area somewhere, And so it's not really feasible. You may do it once a year or something like that. But this is where, the technology can also come in handy. You can get online, and learn and get a lot of association that way. So but still, it has to culminate eventually in person to person. So, Tarko Shruti of Nasa Rishi, and suppose you just meet this Rishi, that Rishi, this learned soul, but not really a pure Acharya, a Bhagavat. That also is going to confuse the heck out of you. I met so many teachers, yoga teachers, and all I can say is I was lucky to escape, to not get under the wing, because they all had institutions and like that. So what's the punchline to this verse? Nasa vashya yasamatam nabin tarko shuddhi of bin nasa vashya yasamatam nabin dharma vitesham adhiko visheshu dharma hina pasabit. No. Dharma sitatvam nihitam guhaya mahajano yena gatasapanta. The truth of dharma is hidden in the heart of the Mahajan, the pure Acharya. And by following the instructions of the pure Acharya, that's how everything falls into place. You can actually make progress. And that's what this whole institution is. It's all under the instruction and inspiration of Srila Prabhupada. And his 12 years of preaching was full with so much instruction, both through his books and person to person. And we can get that, through recording, through books, and through those still present, those who were there. And so that's the real shelter. And when we, as we sing every morning, Guru Mukha Padmabhakajita Tekudayaka, which the translation, Prabhupada never translated this song, so I don't think I'm changing it, I made my little note on there. But that, really what he's saying there, Narottam is saying, oh brothers and sisters, make the words of the Acharya one with your mind, and don't desire anything else. Now, instead of rewriting the whole translation, we just make that little adjustment. May the words of the spiritual master, may I not desire anything except the words of the spiritual master and instructions. That's a very important point. Prabhupada makes that, emphasizes that in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, this very important, Vyavasayatmaka Buddha Ekehe Kurunandana. That one pointed attention. In other words, that fixity of purpose and mind, and not letting extraneous things influence you, is the only way to really make a substantial advancement. And this is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I think, in his commentary there, or maybe it's Baladev, because that was the main commentator. But that making that the order of the spiritual master one's life and soul, and really worshiping it and trying to follow with it, is the path of real progress in devotional service. And what is that order that Prabhupada is giving? He's just giving us Krishna's order, custom made for our time and our circumstance and our mentality. And Lord Chaitanya, he's Krishna himself, and he cut through all, so much confusion. Just chant Hare Krishna. That's the main thing, and everything else falls into place. Then you become interested in Krishna, you become interested in the devotees of Krishna, you become interested in prasadam, in the books. Where did that buzz come from? Maybe very preliminary, rudimentary. But that's how Prabhupada spread the movement, as Lord Chaitanya spread it. So we're very fortunate to be practically contemporaries of Lord Chaitanya and his followers. And just a few thousand years since Krishna appeared, when you read how often Krishna appears, you remember? Does anyone remember how often does he appear on this planet? Once in a day of Brahma. It's long. Now, Prabhupada uses the word day usually to mean 12 hours. So 12 hours is, I think, 432 billion years, or maybe a million, maybe it's billion. But it's a long, long time. That's 12 hours. That's another 12 hours where he sleeps. So now, once in those 24 hours, it's 8 billion years, Krishna appears, and just 5,000 years ago. It's like yesterday. And Lord Chaitanya is he's practically contemporaries. So let's not blow it. We have a great opportunity. We're very fortunate. Who knows where all the different births we've taken enough to come to this. And now we can read and get warned against bad association. And this word prasanga is in this verse, right? At the end. Prasanga. This is a very important word. I'm not going to go through the whole Sadhu Sangashtaka, but the first word of that Sadhu Sangashtaka, which is the beginning of the instructions of Kapila Muni to his mother, Devahuti. And he says, Prasangam, Ajaram Pasham Atmanak Kabayo Vidu, Saesha Sadhu Sukrito, Moksha Dwaram Apavatam. This is such an important verse. So I put it into a little poem. Mundane attraction keeps us bound to birth and death infernal. But love for sadhus opens wide the door to life eternal. So what is this prasanga? It's the first word, prasanga. It's the last verse of this one. Prasanga means two things. It means very strong attachment, because we should always remember, sangha means attachment and it also means association. Now Sanskrit is an interesting language. There's other words like this, where one meaning of the word produces the second meaning. Sangha is association. Well, as you associate, you create your attachment. You see, so sangha results in sangha. Similarly, gati, we sing every morning, twice. Think about it. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasado nagati kutopi. So that word gati means goal and means the means to the goal. You see? The same idea. The same word means something, and then the result of that is also the same thing. So, of course, that means by the grace of the spiritual master, one gets the grace of Krishna. But then yasya prasadam, and anyone who leads the RT always has to remember to say prasadam, yasya, not yasya prasadam. Yasya prasadam nagati gatopi. And if you don't get the mercy of the guru, no grace, then there's no way of making advancement. Nagati, here it means gati means the way of advancing. So sangha, prasanga. Now, probably there's so many prefixes in Sanskrit. One of them is pra, and Prabhupada would say prakrishna rupena. Prakrishna rupena means it emphasizes, it expands, it multiplies whatever you're talking about. So prasanga means meaningful in the association, meaningful, intense association. In other words, if sangha, sadhu sangha, right? Sadhu sangha means the association of the devotees. So what's the prasanga? Sadhu prasanga means that you're hearing very attentively, submissive all reception. You come not just to check it out, and maybe check your phone. I mean, people come to my class sometimes, and the next thing they see, they're checking their phone. So sometimes I say, please, no phone. Oh, I'm sorry, and they walk out. There's more interesting. They're diverted. The attention is diverted. So one point of attention, and receiving the words submissively, not just, well, that doesn't make any sense. Are you sure? Let me make a note of that. No, that's good, but it's not as good as actual just really attentive hearing. Prabhupada gave two phrases for it. One was submissive oral reception, and the other was ardent hearing. So that's prasanga. So in this verse, prasanga means strong attachment to this world, which is like strong ropes. Ajadam pasham, atmanak kavayovadu. Everyone knows that the strong attachment to materialists in this world has to be redirected to sadhus. And that opens the door to liberation. Mundane attachment, mundane affection keeps us bound to birth and death infernal, but love for sadhus opens wide the doors to life eternal. So the next question, well, who's the sadhu? Next verse, famous verse. Tatikshava karunika sudidak sarvadehinam. Then, ajata shatravak shanta sadhavak sadhabhushana. Here are the ornaments of a sadhu, he says, like character ornaments. First is tolerance. Tolerance, and then karunika, mercy. Now, this is what the Christmas marathon or any book distribution or any like preaching There's always has to be tolerance, because you're going to have people who are indifferent or even object to you. And Vijay has 100 stories of things. He told once he was doing Sankirtan. He spent a couple of years here. And when he first went to the park, he said, "Oh, this is the best place I've ever been on Sankirtan." When he went to that Balboa. But then after some weeks, there's some homeless guy who came and tried to overturn the desk, his table, right? Do you remember that? He pushed Vijay, yeah. So, you can't pull out your gun. It's like you have to be tolerant, right? I'm sure he has a way of dealing with it. And probably you helped him. He's strong. Anyway, so tolerant, if you're going to be compassionate and try to help people and go out, then you have to be tolerant. So that's the sadhu. Suridak sarvadehinam, friend of all living entities, not just human beings. Prabhupada makes a point in the lecture, cows, this is, also. And therefore, because you're friendly to all living beings, you're trying to help everyone, you're compassionate, you're tolerant, you have no enemies. You have no enmity, and for the most part, you have no enemies, except in special occasions, where, Hiranyakashipu is the arch enemy of Prahlad, and like that. So, Jata Shatra, but you yourself have no enmity to anyone, whether someone is. These are the ornaments of a sadhu. But it has nothing. But it doesn't mention bhakti. Where's bhakti fit in here? That's the next verse. I forget the Sanskrit. He says, but unalloyed, interrupted devotion unto me. Kapila Dev is an incarnation. So he said, I can't believe I forgot it. Anyway, so then he's describing how it happens, and then a few verses later is the most important verse of this, which fits exactly into this mood. Satam prasangan, there's the word again. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkana rasayana katha tanjoshanara shrabavarga vartmani shraddharati bhaktiranu kramishati. So there's prasanga again. That a meaningful, intense, important association with sadhus. What's going to happen? You're going to hear about me, my glories. This is Kapila Dev speaking. Satam mama virya samvido. And what about those glories? Bhavanti ritkarna rasayanak. They're like a life-giving elixir for the heart and the mind. Ritkarna rasayanak katha. And by following that simple process, just sitting and hearing, Tad Joshanat Ashu quickly produces this Apavarga Vartmani on this path of liberation. What happens? Shraddha, Rati, Bhakti, Anukramishati. These things increase your faith. Without the foundation of faith, we can't do anything. That's the first step in Rupa Goswami's ladder, from faith to prema, from Shraddha to prema. So your faith is increased by hearing and living and hanging out with and associating with those who have faith. You see, it's catching. Shraddha, Rati, and attraction for Krishna, and Bhakti, which here means prema bhakti, increase step by step. So the whole thing is association, and the most important kind of association is Sankirtan, Harinam Sankirtan. I chant, you hear, you chant, I hear. That's the essence of the whole thing, and it expands into all the the books and the hearing and the chanting and the talking. That's infused with devotion to Krishna. So that's what Sabri Muni did not have. He didn't have it with the fish, that's for sure. And so finally he realized the importance of it, and that's why he spoke the verse we read today. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, it's a little late. Any abroad in the ether? Vanessa, you chanted so nicely. Any questions? Okay. Chad, I hope he's okay. We'll find out tonight. If he comes and chants the verse, that's good sign. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.